Yo, 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 grab your 40s and check your rollies. It's the Impact Attack. It's time for the Impact Attack once again. It is your Impact Attack, and we're gonna we're gonna steal it from you, and we're gonna sell it back to you later. Who are we? We are the VBC collectively, and I'm the V in the VBC, the vet Jamie Williams. With me, as always, my tag team partner Brandon. Brandon, hot tag coming in for a comeback. Brandon, what's up?
Not much, man. Yeah, we were talking about Crime Time earlier in the story of their formation, which was a lot different than what you'll hear on the sheets, but, why let the truth get in the way of a good story?
That's right. And speaking of the truth getting in the way of a good story, the only true thing is that we couldn't do this without you guys, the chat. The chat is here. Of course, they're filing in slowly. Some are still watching Monday Night Raw. Some of them are multitasking. But who do we have with us so far here, Brandon?
Let's see who's hanging with us right now. We got Lisbeth. We got Labrat. We got Javi Uchiha. Bearcats in the house.
Oh, yeah, Bearcat. Oh, yeah, this was a very nice Bearcat. Oh, that poor man. But anyway, so yeah, so it's another episode of the Impact Attack, and it's another episode of TNA Impact, and it's another week of treading water, of course. There may be some stuff to like, plenty of stuff not to like, as usual. We'll do our best to make you feel like you like the whole thing, even if we're miserable. So I think that is really the art of doing these. I think in 2024 for us, at least I can always speak for me. Person, Elaborate says I once saw Crime Time beat up the Ninja Turtles at a Knox wrestling event. That must have been amazing.
Were you at that show?
Who, me? No, no. Labrat. They were testing. They were testing public beatings on Labrat that day. But and not on him personally, but viewing them, like the psychological impact of viewing them, pun intended. Um, so for me, it was it's like my goal in doing shows for HMG is to give you guys joy in my misery. Like if I had to sit and watch a wrestling program, I want to give you guys a good time, not only of me recounting it, but if you thought it was miserable, to be able to look back at it fondly and laugh at how bad it was. Like I hope that we're able to sort of entertain you in that way of like, yeah, we can provide a little technical commentary, and we can provide suggestions for ways they could have improved things and stuff like that. But really, I think ultimately we want you to have a happier memory of the stuff that you watched than perhaps you remember at the time, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't know, Brandon, what do you think? Is that a good mission statement to have?
I think it's a great one. We're in this together. Let's enjoy this and make fun of it together and try to
That's
find the
right.
stuff that we enjoy together.
Right. And you get a chance to do that in real time, with the watch alongs and everything like that. And I know that it makes it a lot easier to get through stuff if you've got, a group of people that are right there with anything from jokes to, supplemental information to breaking news. You can always look at the chat. That's why the C is such a big part of what we do.
Yeah, you never know. Somebody might say something and you find yourself going down a rabbit hole, and it makes the show even better.
Yeah, because you have to pay attention to it less. So I think that is ultimately what we aim to do. But we're going to do it again here. So we usually kind of talk about what's going on in the world and the news and everything like that.
And there
Probably
is
nothing
some
going on in the big world. Nothing, like no former presidents convicted of anything. Nothing interesting like that. We could just focus on the wrestling, I guess, or we could not. Whatever. Anybody could say what they want. What do you think, Brandon? Has this been what's this week been like for you?
It's been an interesting one. There's been a lot of changes going on in TNA. Of course, the big news of Jordan Grace appearing on NXT.
Mm-hmm.
And then News of the departures in TNA.
Right. I have that pulled up here if we want to get to that right now or if we want to save it for later. It's up to you.
Let's go ahead and kick it off.
Let's kick it off. All right. All right. So courtesy of Sam Palmer from Wrestling Inc. through PW Insider and Fightful Select. This is the world we live in. So PWI reported on May 30th. You may know this guy, David Sahadi, let go by the company after 18 years of service. And I would say quiet service. With R.D. Evans, a man who was considered the head of creative over the past few months, also following Sahadi out the door. So Sahadi, they don't really go into it here in this article. A little bit of low quality reporting here, but David Sahadi is the guy, I believe that is he the one that does like a lot of the video packages and things like that, like all of that sort of presentation?
Yep. In fact, he was, I think, the main video package guy in the WWE for a chunk of the Attitude Era.
Right. So it's like this guy kind of knows what he's doing. And TNA 18 years, right? You do the math. That's like, what, 06, right? So that's how long he was at WWE until 06. And then he's just been in TNA ever since. When they let him go. Obviously, WWE's had no problem doing video packages since Sahadi left. However, I think he had a lot of memorable ones there. They were better when he was there. I like the way he, edited some of those. I think my favorite one is that easily, it's probably the best one that wrestling's ever done. But the one with Freddie Blassie, in the arena where he's like remembering the like he's remembering the I don't even remember the whole thing. I can't recap it in a in a podcaster explanation form. But if you remember the Freddie Blassie video package, then you know which one there's only one that you would know that I'm talking about. I believe that was his work. So if you Google that and watch that, I'm sure you could find it somewhere. But, those ones, it became, a lot. They were still cinematic, but they were a little more understated. I just thought they were better quality. And TNA's had good video packages over the years as well.
Was that the one that featured like him doing a voiceover as he's being wheeled towards a door with a golden light, and you see the scene of that house being blown away, and then when he gets to the door, it opens and he stands up?
Is it? I don't remember that. I just remember him it's just him talking about he's like reflecting on his career, and he's looking at the comparing the stars of today to yesterday, as in like he's still like I can't. God, I wish I could remember the actual verbiage or whatever that was said. But yes, he is doing the voiceover for it. It was a lot calmer. I think it was in black and white. But yeah, I thought it was a really nice piece. I'm sure that was Sahadi that did it.
You know what my favorite Freddie Blassie video package was? Happy birthday, Mr. Blassie.
Oh, that was another good one. Was that Sahadi too?
No, I'm totally joking.
So yeah. So anyway, that's David Sahadi. And they say that he was let go. This was confirmed by Fightful. They're doubling down on what PWI said. Say yes, he was let go by Anthem Sports and would be replaced soon. And R.D. Evans left the company of his own volition after growing frustrated with the company in recent weeks. So yeah, and then TNA sent an email to everyone thanking R.D. Evans, and that he handed in his notice. The other high-profile departure was Lou D'Angeli, the now former vice president of marketing at Anthem Sports as part of TNA, who many fans of ECW wrestling will remember as Sign Guy Dudley. Later, Louis Dangerously. I can't help but laugh that the vice president of marketing was Sign Guy. Like he was marketing even then with signs. Fightful and PWI were told that D'Angelo did a lot of good work at TNA. With him being one of the primary reasons CM Punk was linked to the company over the past few years, as well as helping Trinity join the company. So, and then it says Fightful is also informed of another departure in a similar department to those who have already left, with all the recent exits being down to Anthem Sports wanting to go in a different direction for their live event markets. So that's an interesting way to say, oh yeah, and some other guy. We didn't bother to learn his name or what they did. But that's also a telling statement. I want to go in a different direction for their live event markets. Well, what is that? I mean, how many live events? If you're saying live events, if you're not WWE, what that means is anything you do, right? WWE means we're doing a house show, but for every other wrestling company, that's any TV, any pay-per-view, anything that you do. They want to go in a different direction. I don't know what that means, other than when corporate people say a different direction, that just means this is why you're not coming along. We're just not going with you. We're not going in the you direction. We're going in the other people direction. It's just their nice way of softening that blow, I guess. Usually the companies stay in the same ass direction, if not just like, they get worse. But I mean, what do you make of all this? Do you see anything immediately from these guys' departures, as in like, since we've known people were leaving, or since Scott D'Amora's left, or what do you see for the future? Do you see anything going in a different direction?
Man, I don't know. There was one report I was reading about how there's no more dates booked after a certain time, which is very soon coming up, which is kind of a little bit worrying, but I can't personally 100% confirm that at this time.
Oh, apparently neither can they. I mean, with reporting like, oh yeah, there's a guy in a similar department that also left. Like, that's not.
Couldn't get his name.
Yeah, no. It's just
some guy.
Way to go, SRS. If you could stop panting over Denise, you could do some footwork and find out some people's names. Anyway.
He talks to top guys and gets scripts.
Oh, well. I guess this guy was like he big leagued this guy. Didn't need to learn who he was. So that's that. Basically stuff is getting shaken up. TNA.
Yeah, pal.
TNA is getting shaken up. Woo.
Wild card, pal.
Must be jelly, because Jam don't shake like that. All right, now, speaking of, well, I guess it's not speaking of jelly. She doesn't look like she has any body fat whatsoever. But Jordynne Grace, obviously made her big appearance on WWE television. Not just a big major event like the Royal Rumble that has had, everybody from other companies to celebrities to everybody show up in that match. So seeing Jordynne Grace wasn't as crazy there. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because we just got here. Put that back up. I want to read that. Sonic the Hedgehog says, turn Raw off after I told my wife Natty always comes out with her boobs out and loses. Then she lost.
Yeah, like the predictability is just crazy with that.
Yep. Hey, if she can make peace with her role in the company now, she'll be fine. But it's a hard pill to swallow, unlike some of the other pills she swallowed. Speaking of swallowing pills, Jordynne Grace again. All right, so Jordynne Grace.
Well, dude, I'll never forget this one time when on TNA when Scott Steiner told Rob Terry, you should be called Chernobyl because you're one vitamin away from a chemical reaction.
Vitamin. Oh, I thought I was told to take my vitamins, say my prayers, and train. Oh. Yeah. All right. So she showed up, and there's that, and she's been talking about it, like she's been on, because all of wrestling journalism is just listening to podcasts and then writing articles about sound bites from the podcast, as we've said many times. And I guess this was no different because Jordan was on an interview with Fightful, so they're getting those big names, like you said. I pulled up this article because it was funny. Like, who cares about the rest of it? I just pulled up this one because Grace says, the only message I got about that was Moose. He called me and he was like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me you were doing this? And I was like, Moose, you have the biggest mouth out of anyone I know. That would have gone out 5 minutes after I told you. He was like, you should tell Shawn Michaels that I want to come over. I was like, I'll go ahead and do that, Moose. So there it is. Breaking news. Moose wants on WWE TV. Well, you could have signed with them. But maybe this is better. Maybe it's better to just be like, hey, I'll make a cameo as my own company's character rather than go over there and start from scratch and then, end up like somebody like Apollo Crews or whatever that they only remember has a job when they need him to do a job.
Yeah, I think that's a better scenario for Moose. He gets WWE exposure without having to be signed to WWE.
Yeah. Or he doesn't. But which because he's just saying he wants to be on. But hopefully,
dude, I'd love to see him and Drew.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, you look at it. It's interesting, just because. Not only are we seeing the crossover of one company to the other in a company that was notorious for not doing that. Not that they've never done it, but especially not anything really like this, and nothing to make anybody in a good, in a positive light per se. But now it's sort of going the other way, It's like, oh, WWE will provide footage to TNA to use, as we'll see later in the Impact episode, and like we saw with Mickie James at the Royal Rumble and other such things. So it's a good time. It as it says, the good old phrase, it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, but in some ways it is, and this is one of those ways. It gives you more interest. I've talked about this in the past where, a lot of people just naturally just complain. It's a good thing that you see online. It's a good chance you'll see people saying, who the fuck is this guy? Why am I supposed to care about so-and-so, blah, 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 whenever somebody else shows up. But for me, when I was younger, I didn't worry about those type of things. I didn't, when ECW showed up on Raw, like all those years ago, I didn't say, who the fuck are these guys? I mean, I did in my own way, but it was more like, this is interesting. This is like, these are new people. These are people that are from another company. What are they about? I was interested. I was intrigued. I was curious. I didn't immediately get mad that I didn't know who they were. Like, there was no social media for me to go tell everybody how mad I was that I didn't know who they were. Like, I just wanted to see who they were, and anytime a new wrestler came in to WWF, it's like, I didn't know necessarily who they were in their previous lives or whatever. I was just seeing them as a new character. So I didn't have a problem with that. So if I don't have a problem with it, I don't see anybody else needing to have a problem with it. Did you feel like that younger when you were watching wrestling? Did you feel like that when a new person showed up? Were you angry that you didn't know who they were, or were you intrigued that a new person was there?
It really depended on the situation. Like, you could go both ways with it, where you can have somebody like make an impact their first appearance, and then the next time they appear, then you start introducing who they are.
Yes.
Much like
Well,
ECW did. So I'm sure a lot of, people who are watching Raw had no idea who these guys were, but they were intrigued, they were interested, and they wanted to tune in next week to see who they were and why they did what they did.
yeah. I mean, that even goes to like it goes to stuff that's universally critically panned, like when that group of guys came in the '90s of it was like there was like TL Hopper, there was Alex the Pug Porto, there was the Goon, there was Who, there was Freddie Joe
Who?
Floyd, Who. Whenever that happened, like, yeah, that sucked or whatever, or nothing ever came of it, but like still I was like, wow, you brought in a group of job guys all at once. Like that usually doesn't happen. I was just like, I wasn't angry. Is my point. Like I wasn't like, you know, I didn't get. Of course, there was no social media per se, but the time. But I didn't get on AOL online or whatever. I'd be like, why am I supposed to know who the fuck Tony Anthony, Dirty White Boy is? I, I don't really like. Yeah, yeah. I think I've debated this with RBV live on the air, but he says, I think it's upsetting for fans when the companies expect us fans to know who everyone is, get us excited, and tell us their story. Don't just blame us for not being balls deep in every bubble. Yeah, but you're just complaining to complain, RBV. Come on. It doesn't matter if they tell you the story because what happens when they tell you the story is they're like the next thing is why am I supposed to care? First it's why am I supposed to know? Then it's like why am I supposed to care? When they do a vignette and they tell you about somebody, that you'll say like why am I supposed to care about some CMLL wrestler? Why am I supposed to care? Not you personally, RBV, but I'm just saying this is the fans narrative. It's either it just goes from why am I supposed to know? Why am I supposed to care? And then if the person sticks around, then I guess they stick around. But if they don't stick around, then the fans will say it was a waste of time. But bottom line is, some people just aren't happy unless they're complaining, and that's the internet for you.
Right.
It doesn't even if you don't know the backstory of somebody showing up, like still just a new person showed up. And
right.
then you'll also, if nobody new shows up, then people will start talking about it's just the same people every week. They do the same thing every week. It's the same old people. None of these people are going to get over. Blah blah blah. Like no one's ever happy in wrestling.
Yeah, and those fans that keep bitching about every single thing, going to keep tuning in every week because they can find something to bitch about so they can sound smart and important.
That's pretty much it. People are very proud to wear their ignorance as a badge of honor. Like it's most of the internet's favorite thing is to remind you that they're cool for not knowing it. To give you an example that I'm sure that Rick could probably relate to also is like, every year about, when it's kind of around football playoff and Super Bowl time, and then like on Facebook, a bunch of people would post about how much they just don't care about football. Like they're proud to just let you know they don't care. And it's like no one asked. So you could have just said nothing, but instead you're like you're fishing for somebody to just basically you're either fishing for somebody to agree with you so that you don't feel like a pathetic you know like pathetic for being left out of everything, or you're trying to start shit on purpose because you're business minded and you want to get engagement on your profiles. So saying why am I supposed to care about X wrestler is that's just the wrestling fan equivalent of like all those women and those nerds and stuff that post those memes of like, it's a me not caring at all about the Super Bowl, and maybe it's like Kermit sipping the tea thing or like whatever, just like,
If you didn't care, you wouldn't have said anything.
yeah, I don't care that you don't care. How about that? But you'll never see me posting anything like that. I'm a responsible internet user. So, anyway, yeah, Rage Face running wild, brother. Let me tell you something that you didn't ask, brother. Yeah. Go Browns? Yeah, sure. We got brownies in the house.
We got muffins in the house.
We got muffins in the house. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely needed some muffins this past week, but I didn't buy any. So, anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, Jordan Grace. So she's gonna face, in case anybody hasn't heard, she's gonna face the prodigy Roxanne Perez on Battlegrounds live from the UFC Apex. So yeah, we'll see what they do. Could they do something crazy? Could it be Jordan two belts? Juggernaut? Jugs two belts? Jugs two
Champ,
belts? Serial killer?
champ,
Axe
champ,
murder girl?
juggernaut.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll just have to tune in and find out. I believe that is this coming weekend. Battleground, NXT Battleground. And we'll probably have a preview for you on the Next Level Wrestling Review. And certainly next week, we will have a review for you on Next Level Wrestling Review. So we'll talk about Jordan Grace there, and then we'll probably revisit it here. We'll keep you up to date on all of the NXT TNA crossover. And can you imagine this is going to be such a novel idea? You guys have an analyst that does a show for each of those things so that he could talk about things in depth and actually know about the things that he's talking about instead of just, going on there and spouting baseless opinions based on a couple of things they saw. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I will be your conduit for all the NXT TNA crossover. So we should do like a it would be cool if we did like a host crossover. Like if Brandon could come on to the Next Level one morning and then Ray can come on to Impact Attack. He'll make some excuse why he can't do it, like work, but something. So those are some news. Those are some news items for you. Anything else we should talk about?
I think one big thing that kind of dropped was what was it? Oh yeah, the Janelle Grant civil suit against Vince McMahon has been temporarily put on hold for a Department of Justice investigation into Vince McMahon.
Why, I could have sworn there was already a federal investigation. Are we doing a different one now? It's great.
I guess.
I wonder why they think that it's important to do another investigation. I'm being sarcastic. I know why it's important to do another investigation. Because there's some shit in that civil suit that's definitely more than just uncivil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always like to ask for Liz's take on these things, because she looks at that from the side of somebody who's that's Ray, by the way, who'll have a dentist appointment that day. He'll make an evening dentist appointment. But I mean, the way I understand it, and there was an interesting note that there, I can't remember now because I didn't really make a note of it. But when I was reading over the stuff, is something about I don't want to say anything wrong. I don't want to get the facts wrong, but it seemed like the whoever was handling the case or doing the investigation, somebody who works with what's the word, sex trafficking cases and things like that, which is why they wanted to do a deeper investigation into this particular suit. So it's almost like some alarms went off, so they wanted to hey, wait a minute, maybe there's more to this than maybe this is worth digging into even further. Because up till now it's just that's that wrestling company. It's just Vince McMahon. There's people that talk about this for years, yada yada yada. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe nobody even really realized the extent of it, which I think is true. I think most people don't realize the extent to which this has been going on for over 40 years. But hey, maybe now's a good time to maybe look into it. Now that people have been born, grown up, went to law school and now have important careers since Vince McMahon has owned a wrestling company. Like maybe now it's time to be like, hey, wait. So that's an interesting piece. What was the other thing I was gonna say? And then I think people were also getting the wrong idea about like they. I kept seeing the phrase like WWE siding with Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis like as clickbait article headlines. When they're referring to the fact of the motion to move the thing to private arbitration rather than a public trial. Like, of course, WWE would want that, but that's not them siding.
Yeah, big difference. Big difference. Okay, this means that they agree with them on this one little piece of business.
Right. Because nobody's gonna want, like, it's not gonna look good for WWE for that stuff to be out in the public, because that essentially makes everybody at the company somewhat complicit to whatever level or degree that is. Like, just working there, even if you had nothing to do with it, you were there and you may have heard or seen something, even if it was a small thing that you didn't put the pieces together, but now you were there. So yeah, I really don't. I could understand why they wouldn't want things to go to public trial, because this company still has to operate. It's not like you can just close it down for a little while. Hey, let's just stop WWE. You got deals in place. You got network contracts and things that have to be fulfilled for programming, and so you can't just be like, yep, no WWE for a while this is all. And that's also looks more suspicious. So I can understand they're not going to want a public trial. And as Liz says, she, meaning Janelle Grant, had to consent to suspending the lawsuit for the probe. The fact there's a federal investigation is surprising. Given this, it seems that they are wanting to bring actual charges. So now that can be, and having things come out of trial could be against the government's interest.
True, because if that comes out in a public trial, well, then that gives Vince time to cover his tracks before the federal criminal trial is brought against him.
Mm-hmm. So now, if the Department of Justice, I'm kind of asking Liz here, but if the Department of Justice has significant findings in their investigation into this further, they can they bring up their own charges based on what they find and prosecute, just like the Department of Justice? Like, can they just do that? Can they just do like a criminal trial? And then I'm sure they could probably use Janelle Grant as a witness for that also. But I mean, is that feasible, or would somebody besides the government have to bring those charges up? I don't really know. I assume yes, but I'm not sure. They could charge them based on their findings of sex trafficking. It's a lower bar. Well, there's no way they won't find that if they're actually looking. Now, it just depends on who knows who and who's going to grease whose palms and who's going to cover stuff up, how much they find. But we know one person that's willing to be a witness, which is Missy Hyatt. Because recently Missy Hyatt has been making the rounds, doing some interviews, some things, and in multiple places, multiple sources, or sources of content, not sources of information. The information source is Missy Hyatt. So make of that whatever you will. But she has said a story about Vince McMahon during her brief period of trying to work at the WWF, and basically saying that, well, here, let me see if I can find that, because I don't want to misquote Missy. But she was basically saying, I mean, it doesn't sound good for, it does not sound good for, for Vince's case, as far as the long history of that
Behavior.
that sort of behavior, and mm, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it. But basically something about like, yeah, they went out to there was like a dinner. Everybody went out to dinner, and Mean Gene Okerlund spilled coffee on her on purpose to see how she would react. The test that Ben Hameen always talks about, and then oh yeah, here we go. Here we go. I got it. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm sure she's told the story before, but it's coming out again now, just because she has said that she'd be willing to, like, testify anything that would help. And she's talking about the civil case, but obviously this could go to more. Okay, here's the quote. She was doing a wrestling shoot interview. I had to push Vince out of my hotel room because he was trying to stick his tongue in my mouth. He was bringing me back. We were in Vegas shooting, doing the tapings, and we went out. So he taught me how to play blackjack and then went to a dinner at Caesars. This was a big group of people, and I remember I was wearing a leather dress, and Gene Okerlund just poured coffee in my lap. He said later they did that to see how I'd react, to see if I'd freak out, but they were like, oh, you handled that really well. But yeah, that night, McMahon took me to my hotel room and he was trying to get in my hotel room. I was pushing him out. And then she said the same thing on the Cafe de Rene show. That was why she had such a short stint in WWE. She said, I wouldn't fuck Vince. That was another thing. He was really into me until he tried to get into my hotel room and I pushed him out. So, firsthand knowledge.
Yeah,
obviously hearsay, but nonetheless, I mean, Missy's, say what you will about Missy, but she's just always kind of been pretty straightforward and honest about stuff. So even if she's making it up,
and plus this lines up with everything we've always heard.
Right, yeah, the story doesn't sound out of left field, so it's certainly believable. But so we'll see. That's all we can do, is we can just wait and see. So with that being said, shall we? Shall we?
Is
it
we
time?
shall. It's time.
Now, Brandon, you promised. I don't want to say promise. I don't remember if you used the word promise. Because you said you would have a double punch this week. 2 punches.
We got it.
So do we want to hit them both at the same time?
How about this? Let's open with last week and we'll finish with this week.
All right. So we'll do a punch sandwich. And
yeah, pal.
So we'll see how last week's punched up show flows into this week's actual show, and then we'll see what we could do with that. All right. So let's go.
All righty. So we open it up with our recap and catch-up packet.
Ooh.
Then we go to intro, pyro, ballyhoo, go to the announce table, rundown card for tonight, talk about recent events, give their thoughts. Open with an in-ring of Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth. Matt Hardy music and entrance with Ryan Nemeth. Matt cuts a promo on how he's been helping Ryan get ready for the system again at Against All Odds. Ryan gives his response. Matt throws the footage of him training Ryan at the Hardy compound. System music and entrance, Moose promo on Matt on Ryan, mocking the video. Moose says the system should finish off Matt and Ryan right now. Santino music and entrance. Santino books Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth versus Myers and Edwards for the main event. We go to our first commercial break. We come back to the locker room of the system. Moose says they should finish off Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth before the end of the night. The lights flicker before they go completely out. Match number 1, Rascals versus Sinner and Saint. Rascals music and entrance. Sinner and Saint already in the ring. Condensed version of match on the show. Macklin out to attack Rascals post-match. Pre-tape, ABC, same as on the show, with them saying they need to get their tension out of their system in the ring. Backstage, Gia, Macklin, Santana. Gia catches Macklin as he's going through Gorilla. Same promo as on the show with Santana stepping in, and they set up their match for next week. Backstage with the system, Moose says they're going to finish off Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth and put an end to the mind games. Go to our second commercial break. Come back with Backstage and the system. They enter Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth's locker room. System finds a message that hints that Matt and Ryan are not alone. Go to a pre-tape of Jordan Grace, the same one we saw on the show before she goes one-on-one with a Marty Bell. Marty Bell music and entrance, Jordan Grace music and entrance, concierge out with a mannequin of Ash, condensed version of match on the show, Allison K to jump Jordan, Allison and Marty lay out Jordan. Then we go to the recap of Kushida coughing up black ink backstage of Santino, where he tells Gresham referees will be wearing masks and gloves during his matches. Then we go to stage ringside with the Kazarian Diener, Jake something good hands interaction. See, Diener bumps into Kazarian backstage while Kazarian's yelling at the ring announcer. Diener music and entrance. Same Diener promos on the show. Diener continues to cut promo. Good hands music and entrance. Good hands insult Diener and something. Santino sets up tag match for right now. Jody Threat out to complain to Santino that her match is supposed to be next while Santino assures her it happens. So basically you have somebody going, hey, I'm supposed to go next and you just bumped me. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We go to our third commercial break. Diener something versus Good Hands. Condensed version of match on the show. We go backstage with the system. The system continued to look for Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth. Joe Hendry approaches the system, reminds him about the previous week where he pinned, Myers during the Champions Challenge?
Yeah, Myers been taking all these pins.
All right, and then so Edwards challenges Hendry for next week. We go backstage with PCO. We see the same pre-tape that we saw. Pre-tape with First Class, same one we saw. We go to Gorilla with Spitfire and Lars Fredrickson. Jody is still pissed about getting bumped while Danny and Lars try to calm her down. Match number 4, Jody Threat versus Tasha Steelz. Jody Threat music and entrance to Danny Luna and Lars Fredrickson. Tasha Steelz music and entrance, same match you got on the show. Vignette, Crazy Steve. He hasn't forgotten about Laredo Kid. He wants his title back and to take more from Laredo Kid. Crazy Steve shows a picture of a woman to the camera while he laughs.
Picture of a woman.
Commercial break number 4. We go backstage with the system. Once again, they continue to look for Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth. Match number 5, Mike Bailey versus Trent Seven. Mustafa Ali on commentary. Mike Bailey, music and entrance. Trent Seven, music and entrance. Condensed version of the match that we got on the show. Backstage, Khan and Steph DeLander. Khan tells Steph they need to end this situation with PCO. Steph seems to be falling for PCO. Khan notices and tells her that she needs to get her head straight. Go to a vignette with Dango. He gives his thoughts on things happening recently. Says he's noticed that there are people in TNA who actually get it. We go to a vignette of Giselle Shaw and Gail Kim. They continue to talk more about things. Match number 6, Eric Young versus Alan Angels. Alan Angels music and entrance. Eric Young music and entrance. Eric Young over clean. Parking lot mystery arrival. A car with tinted windows pulls up and the camera crew tries to get a look inside while the announcers speculate. 5th commercial break. New Japan hype video. We go to the announce table to run down the card for next week and no surrender card. Match number 6 in main event, or match number 7 in main event. System versus Matt Hardy and Ryan Nemeth. The System music and entrance. Matt Hardy music and entrance with Ryan Nemeth. Same matches on the show. System beats down Matt Hardy and Ryan. Nick Nemeth out for the save with the baby faces going off the air standing tall.
Baby faces standing tall. Boo.
Oh, we fixed that next week.
All right. As long as we fix that. I always like the the classic car arrives at the venue at the wrestling show and camera catches the car arriving, and then I guess after that the camera just leaves and goes somewhere else, and then we don't get who comes out. Like we have to keep the surprise, rather than just keep the camera on, and then you could go to the camera at any moment as soon as the person steps out. But classic wrestling. It's just wrestling. Don't think about it. Well, you're not going to want to think about this too much, but it was an episode of TNA Impact. And of course, we do get a ketchup packet. Okay. So based on what you just saw, your experience may vary. But you know, nonetheless, May 30th edition, kicking it off with A versus B. Ooh. Um, is that a mild or is that a
Oh wait, no,
medium?
no, that was my bad. I that was like the first I had a generic brand. I'm like, oh, I gotta get the for actually doing the actual TNA. I gotta get the Heinz out.
Ah, yes. TNA is Heinz worthy, barely. Um, so never hunts ketchup. God bless God bless Media M5. All right, so this is the classic babyface tag team partners face off, you know, and it's also the classic. We don't really work the match like you would if uh if you were really baby faces and you were really tag team partners. Now I will say this, they did it better psychology wise. They did it better than Speedball and Trent from last week. Even though Speedball and Trent had a really good match, um, the psychology of by the end of it, they were still trying to cripple each other. So it was like, all right, well, you kind of lost the plot a little bit, fellas, but this was a little bit better, but they still like couldn't quite pull it off in the same way. Like for an example, like they do the spot where they're like they go to punch each other and they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna punch you because we're friends and I don't want to punch you." But a drop kick right to the face is okay. You could kick with the full force and extension of your legs with 2 feet right in the guy's face, but don't punch him once. Don't do that. No, 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 no. Don't you dare. Don't you dare punch me. You can kick me in the mouth with 2 feet, but don't punch me. That kind of stuff. Like just maybe they don't know how to do it. Maybe they don't know how to have a match. You think it's possible that they really just couldn't have a match where they don't like strike each other in any significant way, and they try to do the whole match with just like grappling and reversals and that kind of thing, and like escapes and athletic reversals? And do they just not know how, or do you think they just don't want to, or you think they're trying to make the agent happy? Like what do you perceive like Ace and Bay's like actual wrestling acumen to be in this? Would you guess that they could do this, they just don't feel like it? Or do you think they really couldn't actually pull it off if they were told, all right, have a match, but don't do anything violent to each other?
It's possible they might not have viewed that as a strike.
What, a drop kick?
I mean, again, this is a
It's
younger
a pretty
gen.
violent strike. Have you ever drop kicked a human? I would hope not. It would
No.
be a crazy thing if you did it for a shoot, but like,
No.
yeah.
No, I could kind of see like the mindset being like like throwing a punch at somebody is something as at your friend is dirty, whereas a drop kick is like you just kind of catch him with it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but no. Now you could do it, and then that's the thing. There's a story within the story if you tell the story. It's just that they're not telling it. Like when I'll put it to you like this. When Ace Austin got hit by a drop kick, he sold it like he was grabbing his teeth and he was like, what the like, ow, but it wasn't the kind of sell where it was like, how could you? It was just that, yeah, you drop kicked me and it hurt. And there was like, now if you do that, then Chris Bay can like, he can like go over there and like, like, sorry, it was instinct, or whatever. Just like he could do like a quick little sorry, and then just like cover him though, like, but fuck you, I gotta win, like that kind of thing. Like what's done is done. I got a pin you now, like whatever. It's just like you could tell with body language, you could tell that story of like, I don't want to do this, but as a wrestler, my instinct is to do the things I would do if I was trying to win the match. So the other way you do it is you start out where it's like technical until you realize you're at a stalemate, and then somebody has to like try to do something. Like, so for example, if you just work a headlock, work a headlock, do a headlock takedown, do a head scissor, reverse out of the head scissor, boom, go behind, waist, like maybe you just do a few things to show that you're trying to like win the match quickly without hurting the guy who's your friend and partner. Then maybe you go run him to the ropes, do the O'Connor roll, right? And now you got the O'Connor roll, and since you've been going back and forth for a few minutes and nobody's getting the upper hand, maybe you just hook the tights just a little bit. Hook a little bit of tights. And then he gets up, he kicks out, and he's like, hey. And then you build the frustration from there until where by the end of the match, you could be just doing hockey punches at each other because, you lost your temper. You start playing fair. They didn't do either of that. All they did was had a regular wrestling match. Yeah.
Yeah, you have that. You do the one guy does a little cheat. Oh, okay, you're going to do that. I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. I'm going to do this. And you just build from that.
Yeah, you build it. So maybe they just don't know. Look, we have this show. It'll be available on Channel Attitude in perpetuity. I don't know if ABC want to just pony up $250 each for a month, just to listen to this back and maybe study it, or whoever's already listening can just forward it to them. But I'm just saying, like, there's a way to do this match, and I'll give you my socials at the end of the show, like always, if you have any further questions. But I really, regardless of my criticism, I thought the match was fine, other than just like those little things. Like, yeah, you had a fine match. You could have had a better match. You could have had a very good match, and you could have learned how to do things like this for the future. But in any case, like, the finish was fine. It was good. It was good for like the type of, the story, like, of what I'm telling, where you don't want to cripple the guy. Whereas like, Trent Seven last week is doing the Birminghammer on the apron to his partner. The move that was so deadly that Kenta Kobashi only used it 7 times his entire career. Trent Seven used one of his times on the apron on his own tag team partner. So like, who cares, right? Like, just fuck him. If he dies, he dies. I'll find a new tag team partner. In this, it was Ace Austin went for like a fancy European bridging pin, and Ace Austin hooked his arm and gave him a crucifix and pulled him down for a 1-2-3. Take note of that, Walter and Randy Orton. That's how you hook a guy and hold his shoulders down for 3 seconds. So your winner, Chris Bay. And Ace Austin at the end is disappointed that he didn't win, but he raises his hand and they're happy. Until Chris Bay goes to leave the ring, and then Ace Austin grabs him by the back of the neck and then stops him and then holds the ropes open for him. So I also like how they're making you feel like they're going to do the same old tired thing, but then they don't do it. See, I like that.
Yeah, this definitely felt like Ace Austin was like, all right, tonight you're the better man. You beat me. This is, it's out of the system. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
Or is it?
For life.
We'll see you next week.
Well, yeah. 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 So, that's right. Todd Brantley has joined us, the Comment King, still not letting it go. Don't worry. We bash everyone equally. Speaking of these two, it's Xia Brookside versus Steph DeLander. And they have a match. The match is whatever. Both these girls are extremely, how do I put this? Still green, I guess, and it's not great to watch. But anyway, the important thing is that Steph DeLander goes to get a chair from under the ring because apparently Xia Brookside is just too much to handle. So she's got to go get a chair, and then hanging on to the chair is a PCO. Steph just drags PCO's whole body out by the chair, so she's extremely strong. I mean, so strong that She needs a chair to beat little Zaya Brookside. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? Strong enough to drag PCO's entire body weight just by him holding onto a chair. Not strong enough to just beat Zaya Brookside fair and square. But yeah, so she goes fishing for a chair and catches a PCO. And then Zaya, is this the part where Zaya tries to like dive on Steph and then PCO catches her?
Yeah, and rolls her back into the ring.
Yeah, he rolls her back in the ring. So keeping in mind that Zaya Brookside is not damaged and she's fully conscious and aware and like nothing has happened to Zaya really. Steph DeLander gets in the ring and still proceeds to be distracted by PCO, even though Zaya is like completely healthy and fine and ready to fight. And she's just acting like she's just not even there. So they do the same old tired distraction spot for a roll up. But this roll up doesn't even come out of nowhere. Like it was, Zaya's been ready to roll her up for like 30 seconds. And she still gets in the ring and just acts like her opponent has been yeah. Yeah, she's probably dead. PCO touched her. She's probably dead. I can probably beat her anytime I want. So rotten psychology, rotten execution, a tired ass finish. We already just had a roll up finish. And then afterwards, but they don't care about any of that. All they care about is this PCO and Steph love story. So PCO gives her like a handmade card in the middle of the ring, and she reluctantly accepts it and tucks it into her bosom as Zaya Brookside is happily cheering from the ramp because she loves a good love story, I guess. I don't know.
Honestly, the best part about that was Zaya Brookside cheering for them because that's the only thing that made any sense in this because she would totally do that.
Yep. Yeah, what's she got to be mad about? I mean, nobody basically touched her and she got the win, so.
Yep, it's like, okay, cool. These two are out of my hair now.
Yeah. I mean, she did try to get a chair for no reason to murder you, but I guess you're happy that she found love.
Whoop, whoop.
Why is everybody leaving this company? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Why was why was R.D. Evans creatively frustrated? I don't know. So here's where we go to seeing the footage of Jordan Grace on NXT. And not only do we see what happened with her showing up there on NXT, courtesy of WWE, and then but we also see that this Tuesday, or like tomorrow night as we record this, it'll be Jordan Grace will be getting all like a warm-up match against Stevie Turner, who last time we saw her, she had a gimmick as a wrestling streamer, and that they've done nothing with this gimmick the whole time. Nothing interesting, nothing innovative. So yeah, there you go. Have you been keeping up with the NXT product anymore, or
I haven't been able to. I've been working Tuesday nights.
Gotcha. Well, you're not missing much.
Didn't think so.
Yeah, I didn't think. Yeah. Any other? Let's see. Okay, Laredo Kid by the roll-up door, and it's got red light shining on it. So that person hasn't left, unfortunately. And then First Class comes in, and AJ's like, "Hey, we're checking out all the titles, including your title." And you know, he's like, "So we want a match." Like, so Laredo Kid's like, "Why would I do that?" So he forearms Laredo Kid in the face, and then instant security. Security appears instantly, swarms him, pull apart. There you go. The big security pull apart for AJ Francis and Laredo Kid.
Well, Rich Homie Swan's in there too.
Yeah, him too. You got to have at least 3 guys just for Swan. Keep him back. Yeah. Any notes on this or thoughts?
I mean, I thought it was, all right for what it was. I mean, again, we could have definitely have it set up to where is obviously not a pre-set up shot where we have security ready to run in as soon as the brawl breaks out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I also like that a giant man like AJ throwing a forearm into Laredo Kid, and Laredo Kid's just annoyed and wants a little bit more.
Yeah, like you could have set that up where he nails him with that one forearm, he gets knocked down, sells it, gets back up, and gets in AJ's face, and then you start, and that's when it starts escalating. They start throwing bombs at each other. It goes on for a little bit. That's when security runs in, or whatever, or whoever.
Yes, anything other than instant security. It was like poof. Yep, they arrived. Speaking of ineffective big men, Khan is walking backstage looking for Santino, and he runs into the Deaners instead. And Jake something sort of like gets in his face, and and Khan says, "I guess we'll settle this next week." Like, what do you mean you guess? We just saw a guy forearm another guy. Like, why don't you settle it now? Everybody else seems to. And security will be distracted, so you could probably finish whatever you got going on here before.
Yeah, they're still dealing with that back there.
Yeah, now's a good time to settle it, but they're not settling. They're just gonna settle it next week. Khan is a stand-up. He's always been a stand-up guy. He never interferes in anybody's matches. He never breaks. Yeah, he's got a pose. He never breaks anybody's neck. So like yeah. Honorable man. And then he even gives a nice advice to Jake something, which is like, hey, I used to listen to Diener, don't listen to Diener.
Yeah, that was probably the only good thing in this entire segment.
Yeah, what he should have said was, I listened to Diener and look at where it got me, and then started crying into his hands. That's what he should have done. Excuse me. That's how the scene should have ended.
Yeah, pal.
Yeah, pal. All right. Next is Sami Callihan, right? Versus the Dark Octopus, Jonathan Gresham.
Dark.
Oh yeah. I didn't miss Sami Callihan at all, bro. I could just tell you watching this. Like, it was so nice when he wasn't around. And now Fat Eddie has real competition backstage at the tables. Like, this guy, I don't know. Let me give you an example.
I feel the worse for Alicia. Now she has like double competition at the catering table.
Right.
Well, then again, maybe Masha could help kind of clear a path for her. Who knows?
It depends. It's all about timing. It's when they get there, Like, this will be the one time that Sammy and Eddie move fast in the day, and then that's the only time they need to. So if they can just beat Alicia to the catering, then they don't have to worry about the rest after that. I think they don't even go to catering. They go to the truck and just have the guys like feed them out of the van or out of the truck, Like, don't even bother taking it to the table. Just put it right here. That's basically what it is. But I'll give you an example. Sami Callihan is great. His great psychology, right? So they do this thing where like Jonathan Gresham is trying to bite Sami Callihan multiple times, right? Maybe to infect him with the dark ink. But finally Sammy like gets the upper hand and he bites Jonathan Gresham. Well, first of all, never mind the storyline of everybody's getting infected by him, but he's wearing one of those like thick rubber masks and you're biting him in the mask. You bite him in the forehead through the mask. Like, is that Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not fully. Am I not? Am I not getting this across? Jonathan Gresham is wearing a big, thick mask, and Sammy Callahan is biting him through the mask somehow, and Jonathan Gresham is selling it like he's being bitten. It's like, yeah. All right.
I mean, I'm really, really reaching and stretching here. Maybe in some weird psychosomatic thing in Jonathan Gresham's head, he thinks that mask is his face.
Dark face. Which that's okay in 2024. You can do dark face. No other kind of face. Dark. And what is up with Sammy Callahan like doing the hand licking before the chops thing? Like Trish Stratus. Like why is he does he I mean he looks like he would taste like ham. But does he really? Like is that why he's doing it? Like the catering truck emptied, so he just started licking the stuff that he was sweating through his pores?
And re-enters the body, reactivates with what's in there, makes him Super Sammy.
Motherfucker. This fucking guy.
This guy right here.
Yeah, this guy. All right. So yeah, all right. So he Keanu Spacer says Kaiser licked his hand for a chop his shames. This guy. Maybe Tiffany Stratton taught him that. Or maybe she dared him to do it. Not a fan of men licking their hand. Not even a fan of women licking their hand to do it. It's stupid. Stop doing it. But anyway, yeah, so Jonathan Gresham goes for a signature ink smother, and then Sammy blocks it and shoves it back in Gresham's mouth, and then but he doesn't avoid getting the ink on his hand, and then he starts selling the ink on his hand, and he goes to the referee and he's like, "What is this?" Like he doesn't know. And then good opponent scouting, Sammy. He's like, "What is this?" And then the referee's like, "Oh, don't hurt me. I'm scared." And then he goes in the corner, and then Jonathan Gresham kicks him in the balls, and then we have our third roll up of the night. Sunset flip.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah. You're a winner. Dark octopus. But that's an octopus for those of you watching. I'm
imagining myself as Doc Ock, right? When I do that.
Yeah. Listen to me now. What did you think of the match?
I mean, I thought it was all right. It kept the story going. It kind of showed like Sammy's kind of not taking it seriously, and then it kind of like, oh shit, it is kind of serious. So I think it kind of helps get Gresham's character over. It's just it's the character he's doing.
Yeah.
Like it was cool. Like I liked the vignettes we were seeing, like, okay, this kind of works, and they started adding the ink shit, and it's like, okay, now it's kind of going a little ridiculous.
It's dark. Ridiculous.
Dark.
Todd says, because Sammy Callahan? He's always done that, if I'm not mistaken. Well, yeah, I know. I've always hated it. But every time he does it and I have to review a match, I'm going to bring it up. Yeah, definitely. Don't know why he's still doing it. But yes, he has done that quite a bit. I will give one good positive thing about it, though. You remember the last time Gresham had a match and I was like, he's still doing the goofy European wrestling stuff in his match, like he's acting like we're just doing a little goofy Colt Cabana World of Sport jokey. I'm doing the taunting and the all that stuff he was doing. I remember last time.
Yeah, that was a while ago. Like that was before like we went into clip, the 3 months of clip shows.
No. I'm talking about the last time he came out with this mask on and stuff. He was still wrestling like old Jonathan Gresham, but this time he was a lot more like like bestial, and like he seemed like less human, I guess. So like he did do that, which I suggested that would probably be better if he was like into the character. Like he shouldn't just be exactly like he shouldn't just be exactly like he was before, but then he looks like this. Like there should be some sort of a transformation if we're trying to say that like the infection is spreading or whatever, but you shouldn't be doing goofy World of Sport English wrestling stuff and having a good time if you're going dark. So
Honestly, with his size, he should be doing power moves. He should be slamming guys, stretching guys, and doing holds. That's really it. I mean, not really
yeah.
exchanging holds and doing transitions, but like you slam a guy, you put him in a hold, and do something.
Right. Well, you could also you could start doing things where like we've seen like the technical wrestling stuff where he wears a person down and tries to get submissions and stuff. But now he could start doing like you could start doing a thing of like now he's injuring these people with simple moves. Like how many times have I told you guys about the ankle lock and how it's just one tiny little twist and you could pop the guy's fucking patella off his body, right? And if he does that, like he gets like a leg lock on and just and then the guy screams, the referee checks on him, referee stops the match, no contest. Now Jonathan Gresham's mad because he got a no contest instead of a win. So you just cost him some money, I guess, or some, you know, a bag of octopus chow or something, whatever he would get. And then you just break the other leg, like you're mad now. And then Santino's like, hey, like he wants to reprimand him, but he doesn't want to get too close. Like, stay away from me. Stay away from me. So in fact, stay away from everyone. You're suspended. Or something like that. Like just, I mean, you could go different ways with this for content for your show. Instead, you just give him a kick in the balls and a sunset flip. Okay. Not as good, but I guess it's something.
Something.
We don't even have to get into the part about how like the referees and stuff have to wear masks and gloves, but you could just have a match with another opponent. We don't even have to get into that. Let's not even go there. So but here's where we are going to go. We're going to go to a Gail Kim sit down with Giselle Shaw, and they've got a nice like 1920s style microphone on the table, like that would come down from the ceiling, so you could announce Dancing Dan Heffron and Al Robinson. So yeah, but basically, what she says is, what Gail says is, Giselle, you don't need to be a diva. Do this as a knockout. And she says, maybe I will. That's essentially what I got from it. What about you? Did you get anything else from it?
Dude, this is like pretty much the kind of like what I've been saying about the whole Giselle Shaw character the entire time. Like the presentation, how Giselle presents herself, like it works. I get it because, I kind of understand it and I get that. But the whole being a cunt to everybody, that part just felt so fake and forced.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Like to me, it felt like, this is just me personally, it always felt like Giselle's a genuinely great person in real life. And just being like this whole mean girl diva, treating other people like shit. It just felt so forced.
Well, I never really saw it that way, but usually when people are really nice, they make a good heel because it's fun for them to do something they don't normally do. But if you saw it as forced, then
yeah, like as far as the presentation and how Giselle, brought herself out and like, the look and all of that, yeah, that I 100% buy, but just the whole attitude and personality and character and how she acted towards other people. That was what didn't really feel real to me.
All right. Well, we're gonna give the other version a try, I guess. That's what it looks like. Next we have the system with Gia and music underneath. See, that's why I always have to specify, because you never know. They could add music, and they have coverage. They're shooting coverage too. We got multiple cameras here for this interview, the cinematic interview with an ominous tones score. And then Moose is like, who cares what the other guy said? But Moose was like, I'm gonna go handle Matt Hardy, and then and then and Alicia she's probably just hungry, because she's like, where's Moose going? Like, he just told you he was gonna go handle Matt Hardy. Like, what are you talking about?
Is he gonna bring back a burger?
He's not gonna bring back a burger. Spoiler alert, he's not gonna bring back a burger. At least not on camera. Maybe this was on, a digital exclusive, which we'll get to later. Digital exclusive. Moose brings Alicia a burger.
Maybe he goes to the Hardy compound and takes one of his animals to cook into burgers. Here you go, Alicia, because of fucking Eddie and Sammy.
He wanted to go to the Hardy compound, but he had to settle for going to the Hardy's compound and get the probably the $12 $6 burger.
Remember the $5 All-Star meals where it was like a double burger, a chicken sandwich, fries, a cookie, and a drink for $5? Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yep, sure do. Ancient history, pal. Now it's like the $29 All-Star meal. Anyway, so after the system shoves off, then here comes Frankie Kazarian.
Oh, this is like 10 years ago. I'm in Missouri. I'm in Missouri, and we had the Hardys that had that deal like 10 years ago.
Right. Also, he's using Canadian money, so the numbers are higher.
Very true. Forgot about that.
So anyway, Frankie Kazarian asked Gia.
Dude, Hardee's is great. They've made some great food. They do make some great food, I should say. Sorry, a lot of Hardee's around me close. I don't have any nearby me anymore.
Yeah, well, they're okay, I guess, if you're comparing them to like Burger King or something. Slightly higher grade circus and zoo animal meat.
Although I think you might recognize them as Carl's Jr.
I do. I do recognize them as that. All right. So before this turns into the ridiculously random fast food top 5 episode, I'll just say that the king of TNA asked Gia, "Who am I?" And she says, "You're Frankie Kazarian." Stop it. Yeah, who cares? Let's move on. Burt Macklin versus Santana. They have a match, except the Rascals attack both of them. So what are we going to get? Are we going to get a reluctant team up to face the Rascals? Is that what we're going to get?
Yeah, they've been kind of doing it's really been looking like they've been doing a slow burn babyface turn from Macklin. So it's kind of like that's where they're going with this, where it's like, shit, we got this heel team that's doesn't like either of us, so we got to work together.
Yeah, just turn everybody babyface, I guess. There's a couple of baby faces. Spitfire. They have a team meeting with Coach Lars, and it's shot on digital, but it has film effects. and there's coverage of this too. We need to get that close up on Lars, dispensing that coaching advice stuff. Any thoughts?
Let's see, how long has Spitfire been together? It's had, I think one report I was reading said they've had 5. Actually, I think it was like either 5, like between 5 and 7 matches as a team. And then between those 5 and 7 matches, they've won and lost the Knockouts tag team titles, and now they're about to do a breakup angle. That's really all I got to say about that.
I think you said it all. I will just say, just get all 3 of these people out of here right now. Let's just let's just stop wasting our time. They're not going to do anything here. Okay? Nobody wants to see this. Let Lars go back to doing his music and let them go back to doing their independence in Canada and England.
If you need a secondary Knockouts tag team title, do a singles. You don't have enough for a tag.
No, there are no tag teams. There aren't even any men's tag teams in this fucking place.
Yeah.
Well, here's that aforementioned digital exclusive. Leon Slater challenging Mustafa Ali. And Champagne Singh accepting on his behalf. Or, excuse me, Campaign Singh. That's right. So, there you go. Digital exclusive, guys. Digital exclusive.
Now, do they? I didn't quite catch. Is he kind of established as Ali's financial backer?
He could be.
That could be an interesting direction to go with that.
See, I would have thought whatever money he already had from before, he already burned through all that. So I don't know how much he has left to contribute to the campaign, but I mean that's probably the angle they're doing. But Ali wasn't happy that he accepted on his behalf, for what it's worth.
Dude, easy fix for that. You could just have him say, "Hey, I took what I had left, what I made in Vegas, invested it into GameStop, and cashed out at the peak."
Yes, you could. I mean, they're often in Las Vegas. And yes, Todd, Alicia and Masha are the tag team champions, but they've
Correct.
been that's who they won it from recently. So it was the Spitfire team. Next, we actually go right into Leon Slater versus Mustafa Ali, and they have a match. Any thoughts on the match?
Twas a match.
Twas a match. No real outside interference, I guess. Leon Slater's probably not important enough to protect with a screw job finish or anything, so they just beat him. We know Ali don't do no jobs, right? So he's coming in, and they do a thing where he's like, I guess Leon's on the mat sort of by the corner, and Ali grabs him by the leg and spins him on the mat so that his head hits the post under the bottom turnbuckle, and then drags him back over to hit the 450. So creative finish, not necessarily clean per se since he used the post, but no Secret Service people came down or anything that I remember. So maybe they did earlier in the match, but I don't remember. I don't think so. So there you go.
Yeah, I liked the finish where it was dirty, but still kind of within the rules.
Yep. So there you go. All right, it's time for more Moose. Moose is still looking for Matt Hardy, and he finds a fat kid in the stairwell and interrogates him, and he's got a lead, so he takes off. And then we get our main event, which was Fat Eddie versus Joe Hendry. Yep, we believe. I'm not gonna say I don't believe, but I was definitely dozing off at points. Like I was nodding off during this, and I would wake up and nod off again, and then I wake up and I'd be like, "Oh, how long has this been? Did I miss a lot?" Well, I'm not gonna rewind it and find out.
Too long for its own good, in my opinion. I mean, these are two guys who know what they're doing. They don't need a lot of time to get the business across. And it felt like they were just trying to Well, they gave us as much time, so we got to do what we got to do to kill it.
Yep. And perhaps due to his iTunes success recently, Joe Hendry has chosen to win this match, and he does it in an interesting way. It's like Eddie goes for the Boston Knee Party, but Joe Hendry just stands up and hits him with the standing ovation. He just catches him out of the air and hits him with a standing ovation. Why didn't everybody else think of that? If you're down on the ground and Eddie's going for the Boston Knee Party, all you got to do is just stand up. Then you'll be too high to get hit by his knee, and then he'll stop running, and then you can pick him up and hit your finish on him. He just laid out the blueprint. No one ever has to lose to Eddie ever again. It's just that simple. Just stand up. Just stand up. Just stand up. So there you go. Good scouting by Joe Hendry. Unlike Sami Callihan, who was confused about the ink, Joe Hendry knew what finisher was coming. He countered it. He got the win. Boom. Todd says, I believe in simple finishes. So yeah. A little long, like you said. I may have nodded off, but we get the idea. But that's not quite the end of the show. The end of the show is Moose finding Matt Hardy and them brawling with each other by the roll-up door, the same one that Laredo Kid was over by. Don't worry, it's not red anymore. They've removed those lights. They replaced it with a nice little pallet jack. But there's no lights there, so they can throw each other into the roll-up door to their heart's content. And then Moose eventually gets the chairs, and he does the chair collar thing and Pillmanizes Matt Hardy, gives him 3 good shots, and leaves him laying, and that is the end of the show. Now, far be it from me to complain about Moose leaving a show with the upper hand or being featured in 3 segments on the show, but if I'm not being fair, then I'm not being me. This was the shits. This fight was the shits. It's both their faults, and again, we saw an instance earlier in the night where one guy threw a forearm and 10 security guards rushed in. Then here, I guess they've knocked off early for the night and gone home because, Moose took all of his day to set up this crippling chair contraption, and nobody's interested in helping out. It's the same spot. It's the same spot in the building. So, I assumed that because of the rapid response, the security was posted up somewhere right around there. Maybe that was they had their office right there or whatever. But nothing now. So more just convenient security. Everything looked like shit. So it's just, I didn't like it, but I'll just, as a la carte, I'll just take it that it was 3 servings of moose, however small. They were 3 small courses of moose, where they have a nice little moose on a plate that they really gussy up the plate to disguise the fact that it's 1 bite of food, it's like that. What about you? What did you think of the beating?
It could have been executed better, but I liked the idea of Moose finally getting his hands on Matt Hardy and getting heat on him.
Yeah. Scott took half the cards. Yeah, Labrat says Scott took half the guards with him. Todd Brownlee says probably wasn't good, but since it's Moose, I'll give it a pass. That's basically how I feel. Most times, though, Moose actually is good. I don't have to overlook it, but this time I'm calling it. Had to be fair.
If you care about Moose, you're honest with Moose.
Right. I mean, I don't know what to tell him to make this any better other than just don't do it. Because it's less about the mechanics of it. Although the punches were shitty, but That was both of them. It didn't look good. But I don't think any wrestling brawls look good because all they do is grab each other by the back of the neck and throw each other into the nearest wall or whatever. Um, so it just doesn't look realistic, but that's fine. It's wrestling. Speaking of it's wrestling, in regards to the counters, Sonic said somebody else got to do it first. How come nobody thought of flipping out of Cena's AA until Seth did it? You're right. Why didn't they? Of course, nobody else does it now still, but that's mostly because John Cena has moved on from wrestling somewhat. But yeah, so that was that. That was Impact from May 30th. So we'll see what's next for Moose. We'll see if Shawn Michaels does indeed get the Iggy from Jordan Grace about Moose. But we'll see. But before we get to that, we got to punch this up. And I'm not talking about the punches that they were throwing in that backstage brawl. We need some better punches that look like they actually land and look like they hurt.
Whoop, whoop. All right, so as always, we open it up with our recap and ketchup packet. We go to the intro, Pyro and Ballyhoo. Now it's
the ketchup packet from Hardee's.
No, this is a Heinz one. But then I think they use Heinz.
Just go with it. Just go.
Then we run down the card for tonight, talk about recent events, give their thoughts. We get an in-ring with Matt Hardy, Nick Nemeth, Ryan Nemeth, The System, and Joe Hendry. Matt Hardy music and entrance with Nick and Ryan. Matt Hardy promo about what he and Nick and Ryan will do once they get the titles away from The System. The System music and entrance. Moose promo in response to Matt Hardy, and they're not going to make it to No Surrender. Joe Hendry music and entrance. Joe Hendry cuts promo on The System before he runs at them. Matt, Nick, and Ryan join the brawl. Officials and security out to break things up before we go to our first commercial break. We come backstage. We're in The System's locker room. Moose says that Matt Hardy needs to be permanently taken out. You go to match.
Wait a minute. Wait. In the real show was the Nemeths weren't on it, were they?
They were not. No.
Huh. I like how Sonic said, WWE working with TNA, Dolph about to get fired by WWE again. Don't worry, Sonic. He hasn't signed any contracts. He can't get fired.
Plus he got a New Japan belt. I'm sure he's good.
Oh, he gave that back.
Really?
Yeah. He already lost it.
Damn.
Yeah. He's doing the Ric Flair. Fire me. I'm already fired. So, go ahead.
All right, and then we go to our first match. Chris Bay versus Ace Austin. Chris Bay music and entrance. Ace Austin music and entrance. Condensed version of the match on the show. We go to the replay of Jordan Grace coming out on NXT. Plug Jordan Grace versus Stevie Turner for next week's NXT. Backstage, Laredo Kid in First Class. Same thing we got on the show. Match number 2, Steph DeLander versus Xia Brookside. Steph DeLander music and entrance. Xia Brookside music and entrance. PCO interference. Same thing we got on the show. Same post-match angle we got on the show. We go backstage to the System's locker room. Moose says he's spending the rest of the night looking for Matt Hardy. Edwards asks if he'll be there for the main event against Hendry. And Moose says to trust the System. We go backstage to Khan, Jake Something, and Diener. Same thing we got on the show. Match number 3, Jonathan Gresham versus Sami Callihan. Jonathan Gresham, music and entrance. Sami Callihan, music and entrance. Condensed version of the match on the show, but with what we had talked about, making those changes. You go to the pre-taped interview of Gail Kim and Giselle Shaw. Same thing we got on the show. Then you go backstage with Moose. He sticks his head in the locker room, says something unclear to someone before he resumes looking for Matt Hardy. You go to commercial break 3. Vignette. Crazy Steve. Crazy Steve says that he notices Laredo Kid has more than he can handle with First Class. Steve says that he might decide to offer her services to Laredo Kid for a price. Match number 4, Steve Macklin versus Santana. Steve Macklin, music and entrance. Santana, music and entrance. Same match on the show. Condensed version of the match on the show with Rascals running out to attack both men before they team up. Backstage, Spitfire, Lars Fredrickson. Same thing we got on the show. They go to the short with Ali, Singh, and Slater. Same we got on the show. Announcers hype X Division title match after the break. We go backstage with Moose. He's continuing to look for Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy is heard laughing, but he's not seen. Go to our 4th commercial break. Match number 5, X Division title, Mustafa Ali versus Leon Slater. Leon Slater, music and entrance. Mustafa Ali, music and entrance. Condensed version of the match on the show. Backstage, Danny Luna, Jody Threat, and Lars Fredrickson. Danny is found laid out and favoring her knee. Jody and Lars ask what happened. Danny says she was jumped by Alicia and Masha before she is helped up and taken to the trainer's room. We go to a vignette of Rosemary, where we continue to push her heel turn, and she is very clearly targeting Giselle Shaw. We go backstage with Moose. He sees Matt Hardy, attacks him with a chair, and it turns out it was Ash's mannequin dressed as Matt Hardy.
That stupid ass hair, yeah. That'd be funny.
Then we go to our 5th and final commercial break. Come back with the New Japan Hype video. Announce desk. They run down the current No Surrender card, run down next week's show. Our match number 6, our main event. Joe Hendry versus Eddie Edwards. Eddie Edwards, music and entrance with Brian Myers and Alicia Edwards. Joe Hendry, music and entrance. Joe Hendry, pre-match promo. Condensed version of the match on the show. Nick and Ryan Nemeth celebrate with Hardy before Dango runs in from the crowd with a chair, attacks Joe Hendry, Nick Nemeth, Ryan Nemeth, while Eddie and Brian recover and help him. And Dango joins the system.
What?
We go backstage and we see Moose laying out Matt Hardy, but of course it's set up and redone in a much, much better and different way.
Whoa. I was just laughing at the part about, Crazy Steve is going to help Laredo Kid for a price. And I was thinking, like, what? Box of forks from the housewares aisle at Walmart? Like, what? So what's the price of a Crazy Steve? What do you got to give him?
Well, what did Crazy Steve talk about the previous week?
I don't know. I wasn't listening.
The picture of a woman.
Apparently
might
pictures of a woman. I'll give you nudes if you help me with First Class. Just as long as they're not nudes of the chicks that like Top Dollar had on that boat in his music video. Jesus.
Dango in the system, yes.
But he hates the system. He hates professional wrestling. That's why we never see it coming, right? A pair of glasses. Yeah. So, Crazy Steve helping someone else out. He must be blind as a bat. That's right, Todd. He's blind, you see. So there it is, punched up.
But the idea of where I was going with that whole thing with Crazy Steve and Laredo Kid was going to be that woman was Laredo Kid's significant other.
Oh, no.
And Crazy Steve happens to have an attraction to her.
Oh, God. And then they're going to eventually have her on a forklift match? Laredo Kid's significant other on a forklift match?
Yes. Okay. Yes, absolutely. That's where we're going. Yes.
All right. Glad we're clear. So yeah. There you go.
It'll be on the same show where we see Dominic on a forklift with or Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley.
Oh yeah. Well, it could be a while before I see that one, so they have plenty of time to work that out and build up to that. So yeah. Well, there you go. So that is all of the impacts, whether they're punched up impacts, actual impacts, sudden impacts, double impacts,
Deep
um,
impact.
deep impacts. Yeah, we've got it all covered. So, in saying that, we will let you get back to your regularly scheduled impacts. And before we do, I guess we'll tell you where you can find us if you want us to make an impact any further than this episode. Brandon, what about you? Where can I find you?
You can find me, as always, right here on HMG. We're doing the watch alongs. This week's schedule, we're going to be doing AEW on Wednesday, SmackDown on Friday, and Collision on Saturday. And if there's anything going on Sunday, I'm not 100% sure what's going on. If there is anything, whether it might be a major indie pay-per-view like a GCW or an MLW show. If there is, fuck it, we'll do it. We'll be there.
All
And
right.
of course, you can always find me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X, at TransArcusTia. I am also, as is currently on Twitch. It won't be for, I don't know when I'm going to officially make the switch, but it's currently at twitch.tv/MissTia, the TransArcust. And I'm also on Substack at HMG Brandon, where you can find all the recaps of our punching up impacts.
All right. Well, then that just leaves me. You can find me at Opinion Haver on all your social media platforms. You can find me every Wednesday for the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find me every Sunday morning for Da Wreckage with Jimmy T. Every Sunday morning, that's right, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. You can check out Wrestling with Rib Rogers every Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Live Q&A, ask Rib Rogers a question. You could check out Stevie Richards on all of his mini shows and channels, except for the Big Fitness Show is no longer a thing. So that has been shut down, and unfortunately. But they say it's a good thing, and they'll be able to concentrate on their own stuff from now on. So go support Big Mike Barons and Stevie Richards and all their endeavors. They should be pretty easy to find. And I believe that's just about everything. So with that, for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign off line.